Okay, so now I've got to put my hat on as the supposed chair of this session, and I'm going to ask Jennifer to step up and take over. So here's Jennifer. Okay, so Jennifer, we all know Jennifer. She's done quite a bit for this conference, and I mean, she's a school teacher from San Diego, but she's done a fair bit with getting this conference organized and filling in little holes when holes arise. We've met her already throughout the proceedings, and well, Jennifer, just take it away.
Thanks for the kind introduction. I just want to confirm I have a full screen shared and I sound okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep, seems good.
All right, so I just wanted to share my personal journey into creating word search puzzles this year. And we're working in Cyrillic and Arabic using the multilingual supports that are already existent within LaTeX. So I'm not contributing anything new to the LaTeX world, just an end user experience of someone who is not actually a user, so fairly non-technical talk. But although it's not technical, I want you to maybe try to interact a little bit if you're able to. You could trace with your finger or type out the names of any locations you see in the jumble within this chat, maybe if you're on Zoom or even on the YouTube. So how many location names can you find within this word search jumble? So how many location names can you find in this jumble? And you might be tracing with your fingers. If you are, don't smudge your screens too much. But I guess you can see Ireland. There's Ireland. Any others that you see? Trivandrum. Yeah, so I've jumbled in a few words into here, just past locations of TUG conferences, just kind of a little bit of fun. Oh, and Boris notes that he sees at Palo Alto. All right. So now we've played around a little bit in there. And so why word search puzzles? First, they're personal fun. I mean, you just looked at that little slide, and I'm sure that was a little bit fun for you to look for words, but you didn't have a list. It is an educational tool. They're really good for early language acquisition. It helps you build words together and pattern recognition in words. And then, of course, there's thematic topics within my TUG experiences and my TUG talks, where this one here is all about finding things. And last year, my talk was about the phrase, "I will always find you," and how that can either be a very menacing phrase or it could be very endearing, depending on the typography of the phrase itself. So that's why we chose word search puzzles. A little bit of background on me. I'm in Santa Clara, California. I did my undergraduate at UC San Diego in human development. I have a master's from San Jose State University in the natural sciences. And I did a fellowship at Yale where I studied the evolution of the middle limb of insects. So kind of big on that kind of stuff. I'm a teacher at Oak Grove High School in San Jose, California. I teach forensic science, AP Bio, and I run a science research cohort. I'm also affiliated with NASA Ames Research Center here in Mountain View, mostly working with the Gene Lab for High Schools program, where we're teaching high school students how to do omics analysis on large-scale gene expression data sets. And I'm also affiliated with the Society for Science and the Public. They're known for putting on the big science fairs like the Science Talent Search, formerly known as Westinghouse, and the International Science Fair too. A lot of those roles are dealing with equity for students of all types, underserved, underprivileged, those with special needs, and so on. So out of all those platforms, out of all those affiliations, they can yield quite a lot of rich tech and LaTeX use, but I don't see any of it there, even with the R backbone over at NASA Ames of our gene expression platforms. And so I went along and chose a topic relevant to a little hobby of mine. I think alphabets and alphabet stories are very cool, especially ones that are in non-Latin alphabets. So what better way to get to know alphabets than to learn words in those languages? And so though I'm not nearly at all fluent in any of these, I still think it's fun to learn. And so I've been working kind of in tandem on Russian and Arabic, but one of my Arabic study books had a word search puzzle, and I thought that was really fun, and it got in my head that maybe I could start generating them too. So of course, this project was born. I reached out to my family first. I asked them, do they know how to do it? Because my sister actually knows how to use tech, and so does my father. And so I asked them, do they have a method of doing this? And so my sister gives me a nice little end of story kind of response. Never done that. Likely means never will. But my father, being the supportive figure that he always has been, he says, let me research when I get back. He was probably walking the dog at the time. And so as he was intending to get back to me, I, of course, continued my search as well. And on the web, there's plenty type of things. There's too much stuff, in fact. And so I ended up on GitHub because I was really looking for the perfect solution, which I did ultimately find a perfect solution. And this is kind of how it looked. It's just in browser, like a web thing. You enter in some words. You can choose your grid size and the direction. I thought it's perfect. And of course, the first thing I had to test was it easy to use? And then second, I tested the multilingual inputs. But more importantly, this one here happened to generate the LaTeX markup for me. And so I wouldn't have been able to really do this myself. Maybe eventually I would have, but this was all set. It was very convenient. And so I ported this. I just cut and pasted it over into the Overleaf environment because that Overleaf has had a presence at the tech user groups for the last couple years, and I felt like I was getting to know it, and I felt like it was very good for entry level. I like the side-by-side markup. It's an online tech editor, I should say, and I also like it for its convenience and portability. It's also, as far as I know, device independent, so that's very convenient for me as a starter. And so a closer look, I threw in some words of my own besides just the default words. I kept the default grid size and I kept the default directions. And so this is what gets generated. And remember, this here is still in the web, in the browser. And once again, your LaTeX is generated. And so, like I said, I had to try it in Russian using the Cyrillic alphabet. And this one here tolerated that. So I tried 3 different iterations. I just took screenshots of the randomized words that got generated. And I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't solve all of these. I've solved like 2 out of 3 of these, but I'm getting there. I just keep generating more and more as I've gone through and worked on this talk. And so I ported that into the Overleaf environment. And oh no, there's something missing from this slide. So if I ask my students what's missing, what would they tell me? They would tell me that letters are missing, which indeed is true. But for many of you who are actual LaTeX users, you would tell me that there's some packages that are missing. So what's missing? It turned out I needed to call the package from Babel, needed to add it to the preamble. But then I received a warning message about font encoding. And so I had to add in this additional package. That seemed to make it happy. It compiled, it was fine. But I was curious about additional font options. You know, I just had a talk last year all about fonts, right? And so I thought, hey, I know a guy who speaks Ukrainian and Russian, and certainly he's got to know about Cyrillic fonts. And hey, that person happens to be our TUG president, Boris. So I emailed him. And he mentions that at some point, he also had a project. He was interested in finding out how many Cyrillic fonts are available in Tech Live. And so he wrote a Perl script that types up the English, the Russian, the Ukrainian, and he found a list of 821 total fonts. And of course, as he pointed out, the number of font families is much, much smaller, but these are just screenshots of what was generated by him, in case you wanted to know how that list looked. But when I tried out different fonts, that actually forced me to go back into or use Boris's advice on using Polyglossia as a package instead of Babel. But when I tried to compile it, I got this rather intimidating big red error message. And all it really wanted was that it wanted me to use the ZTech or LuaTech as its engine. And then, hey, I'm a new user. I didn't know how to do that. So I had to go into the help files. It turns out it's really just a drop-down menu, nothing bad at all. Drop-down menu, compiler, and now LaTeX is its engine. And that wasn't so bad. And this was a product here. And I thought that was pretty fun. I thought that was pretty nice. But I did want to also explore the Arabic. Something you need to know about Arabic, if you didn't know beforehand, it's written from right to left. And so that's why that directional ability was important, because it wouldn't make sense to have a word search that's going left to right, especially if you're a language learner and it's a little bit difficult as it is. So I wanted words to be scrambled from right to left, up, down, and those, but excluding all the left to right combinations. Another thing to know is that the letter forms can change based on the position in the word. And so word search in Arabic is not necessarily good for learning how to write a word, but it's good for recognizing the letters that constitute that word, because you're going to get them in the singular form rather than any of the connected forms. So for example, you've got the letter ba paired with an aleph, and then that gives you ba. And here you have a mim paired with an aleph, and you get ma. And I apologize if I have not pronounced these well. I have not dedicated enough time to have good pronunciation. I will work on that eventually. Arabic also has diacritic voweling, meaning that the short vowels are not actually letters in themselves. They're denoted with diacritic marks. And so here you see with the short sound, this little tag here is indicating a short vowel. Whereas if you have the kaf plus an aleph, you now have ka, which is the longer kind of A sound vowel there. So I just have to display this because by the time I got here, I didn't quite know what I was doing. I had some issues with the Polyglossia, and so I did web searches, and I found responses to other chains, but it wasn't really answering my question. I was trying a whole bunch of things, and I just got a whole bunch of error messages. And at that point, I realized I didn't actually know enough to even ask the right question in order to solve the problems. So I went back to Babel, and this seemed to solve the issue. And so I got these as my initial products. So I've got two examples right here. But you notice that, yes, in the left-hand side, I do have the Latin alphabet. So my initial filler letters, they were actually automatic. I needed to change them manually. And so in Arabic, that was easy to do because the letters are different enough. But when dealing with the Cyrillic, some of those overlap with the Latin alphabet. And being not fluent at all, of course, it was hard for me to figure out, well, is this letter from my jumble or is this just a stray letter? So I had to go back to the GitHub, look for the email address of the person who posted this. And I emailed him. I would like to know if you could change this language, the language output, especially in LaTeX, and particularly the filler letters that are generated to fill them up. And as I wrote this email, I realized that the person's name was Christian Lawson Perfect, which is why this is a perfect solution. And he replied, he was very kind. He says, that's very easy to do. He added an alphabet field at the top so that I could change whatever letters I wanted as the filler. If I wanted all E's as my filler, I could do that. If I wanted to leave it blank and write in a hidden message, I would also be able to do that. And so that was a very convenient solution for which I'm thankful to him. And here is an example now. I've just mixed up all the alphabets, thrown them in as part of the word soup, as part of the jumble, throw in some words, keep my grid size the default, but I allowed it to mix in all directions, kind of like I called this file Go Wild. And this was the output. Not likely practical if you're really trying to use it as a word search, but I just wanted to try it. It was just a little bit fun for me. And I guess puts the poly into the Polyglossia. This is how it looks in the overleaf environment. And as you can see, there's still a little bit of an error message or a warning message there, but it compiled, it gave me a valid looking output. And so I was fine with that. But I was not fine with it just being a standalone image. I wanted it to be a sheet with a word list. And so these are the examples in Russian. I've got animals, vegetables, and nature. And these were early works. So if you notice that there's typos such as capitalization issues or pluralization, these were just early works just to lay them out. And here is the one in Arabic. But I do have a confession regarding these things. I actually used Adobe InDesign to lay out those sheets. But this TUG community is a great community for learners. Most people are fairly supportive around here. And so because of all these resources that exist, Sue and Cheryl's workshops, some of you may have attended them, the learnlatex.org website, Overleaf help pages and community posts, I at least owed these resources a good-hearted effort in doing the sheet in LaTeX, right? So I was empowered by all these people and you, the audience, and so I set up preamble, might be a little imperfect, but I set it up. Then I made a title, and you notice I got some things commented out because they didn't work. I copied over the word soup that was generated from that website. And then I added in a word list. I had to make some tables, use the H line. And then I pressed my favorite key combination, Control S, and this was the output. So I thought that that was actually pretty pleasant. It's slightly imperfect. There's certain things I would like changed about it, but it would do for me. And here's how it looked in Russian. And so to acknowledge the people in this fairly short talk of mine, I didn't want to torment you and make you actually wonder if you were in that list, but if you want to find yourselves, I gave you a list. So first of all, to Dennis Claudio, that happens to be my father, for thanking him for his early attempt at generating a word puzzle generator, word search puzzle generator. Christian Lawson Perfect for making that available and for his responsiveness in making the adjustment. Boris Weitzman just for his general support and information on the Cyrillic fonts. Mohammed Meirez for information on the Iguana Tech add-on for PowerPoint to be able to have tech generated within PowerPoint. And then of course, my native and fluent word search reviewers. These are the people who make sure there's no naughty, obscene, strange words in the word searches that I displayed. So special thanks to them for their time, Rachel Rudiak, Dana Zitnik, Samia Ali, Abdulbaki Matrouk, Nita Taft, and Yusuf Alam. So thank you, or spasiba, or shukran, or whatever other languages you guys want to teach me. So once again, my name is Jennifer Claudio. I'd be happy to accept any questions or comments, or if you want me to embarrass myself, I can show you how my document actually looks. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer. That was very, very nice. And so that leaves us with about 20 minutes. So, well, we have questions here first. Anyone? I can see lots of cool and awesome comments coming into the chat. But any questions?
Thank you.
Yes,
and I realize now after this year, I really need to start putting some together for Portuguese, right?
Okay.
Boris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it's absolutely great work. I so much enjoyed it. The only thing, there is an interesting problem for advanced user. You used a generator to generate and tech only to typeset it. It's actually possible both to generate and typeset in tech. You can write a program in tech which would do your generation, but it's probably not easy. But it's a very nice problem for somebody who wants to show the tech wizardry.
Thank you, Boris. Yes, I'm not ready yet to do that in tech itself. Hey, if you get spare time and want to help me out, I'm open to that. But yes, I think it would be great to be able to generate that within the tech environment itself. But yeah, for me, I just go in and tweak things around. And I think that it's a good introduction for me because as many of you who know me know that year after year, you ask me how I use tech or LaTeX, and I'm like, I don't use it. So why am I coming to the tech user group conference? And so finally, I have used it. So it's taken me a little while, but I'm finally at least playing around in it.
Okay, so no more questions. In that case, we can. We've got 20 minutes before the next talk is due. Yeah, maybe go get a cup of coffee.
I'll put that word search back up if people want to solve them.
That's a nice idea. Find all of the Cork in Ireland and Trivandrum in India and all of that.